As remarkable as it was, what we saw on stage in the CNN presidential debate, I think it was more remarkable what we heard afterwards. Let me just give you again a little taste, a sampling, an illustration of what happened on MSNBC, on CNN, on CBS, on ABC, on NBC, in the New York Times, and the Washington Post, after we saw the bewildered performance of Joe Biden in the CNN presidential debate. Here's Van Jones on CNN.
That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all. And he looked, I'll give you the analysis. You kind of have the old man versus the con man. I can walk you through how I'm supposed to see it and say it, but I just want to speak from my heart. I love that guy. That's a good man. He loves his country. He's doing the best that he can. But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just panic, it's pain for what we saw tonight.
That's positively funereal. It's as though we're attending the wake of Joe Biden. We might well soon. That is sad. Sad. Let's get back to the substance in a minute, because I also don't think it's believable, most of what's said in there. But it's still remarkable, because it was the same type of thing said in every mainstream outlet. I told you I went to bed that night, said to my wife, something broke tonight, something seminal, an earthquake happened. It may affect, obviously, who's running for president in 2024. It should affect who wins the presidency. And it also affects us today as who's running the office of the presidency. What we saw last night was the most, perhaps, important debate moment since Kennedy-Nixon. And it was like Kennedy-Nixon. You've heard that story. Those listening on radio thought Nixon beat Kennedy in the debate. Those watching on television saw a pale, sweaty, uncomfortable Richard Nixon taking on a good-looking young man of, America's Camelot in John F. Kennedy Jr. But the difference this time is that nobody on any medium would have come away from that debate saying it was a win for Joe Biden. Everybody understood the implications. My favorite is, I'm not going to tell you who, but somebody that you might know, but Democrat, friend, liberal. I said, hey, just give me your reaction. Like, what'd you think and when'd you think it? He goes, man, like 30 seconds in, I was like, shit. I was like, what? 30 seconds in? Yeah, he's like when he's shuffling out and waving to no one. And there's just something like legitimately funny and comedic to me about that moment of realization for those on the left. Was it when he froze the first time? Was it when he said he beat the hell out of Medicare? Was it when he closed his eyes, when he left his mouth open, when he stared off into nothingness? No, it's when he just came shuffling out that they go, man, realization that this is going to be a bad night. And it was an incredibly bad night. We'll still wait to see the polling and the effect on the public. And let's just take for a moment to also talk about Donald Trump. We're going to go into depth on what people said about Donald Trump's performance, the accusation of lies. But for a moment, instead of playing counterpunch, let's punch and tell the affirmative truth, not just push back on the reactive lie. The affirmative truth is Donald Trump was really good in that debate. Really good. Yeah, he was vibrant. He was alive. He had answers to the questions. And something I've learned about Donald Trump's speaking style, in speaking to him directly, yeah, he rambles. He's got long answers. He indulges every parenthetical in his head. But he does come back to answer the question. He does directly answer the question. Most importantly, though, and most impressively for Donald Trump, he was disciplined. He wasn't mean outside of the golf debate. I've seen your swing. It's not a good swing. It's the biggest lie of all that you're a 6. I was a 6. I was. By the way, Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports made a good point. I don't know that saying you got your handicap down to a 6 while you're vice president is the flex you think it is. You kind of got a job. It's not the 4 years, 8 years to lower your handicap. But outside of that incredibly funny and maybe undisciplined moment, Donald Trump was disciplined. Wasn't mean, could have been. Intuitively knew not to been. Just leave it. We could all see. The American public could see the truth. The mask had fallen on Joe Biden. But I want to stick with the media for just one moment, because while we sit there today and go, wow, even they had to tell the truth, it's not the truth. And I have very little patience for this. Okay, yeah, they're all selling Joe Biden the night of and the morning after. They're asking openly Jen Psaki, David Axelrod, former Obama and Biden officials, about replacing Joe Biden as a Democratic nominee. Because all of a sudden, what? Their eyes are opened that he's a diminished president? BS. We've known this for years. Now, the rate of decline, I will grant, seems to have been rapid. I saw videos from Joe in February, and he's much more sound than he is now. And that's the way it goes, man. I always tell the story. I remember my first dog, like my dog, not my family's dog, but my dog as a young man. I got him when I was 20, 21 years old. Awesome. Leon Doberman. Beautiful. Majestic, right? Had him from like age, whatever it was, 21 to 33 or 4. And, man, I didn't have to put anything into that dog. I mean, he's loyal, smart. I mean, I trained him. I didn't send him away to be trained. The point is, I didn't have to spend any money on him. Not even vet bills, nothing. Dry dog food, awesome dog, lived on a ranch, incredible animal. Until the last 6 months of life. And in the last 6 months of life, I spent a ton of money. I thought we had this alpha bro, tough relationship. Nah, man. I melted into a soft serve ice cream cone in the last 6 months of his life. I paid for acupuncture, heart medicine, anything to keep him alive. All the costs came in the last 6 months of his life, and I would have done anything for that dog. Dogs, people, health, it's the way it goes. Rapid decline at the end. I don't know what we've seen from February to June, but we saw it before. It may be more rapid, but it was present the entirety of the presidency of Joe Biden. So you don't get to pretend now. You've been gaslighting and lying and telling us that videos as recently as a week ago, well, not even a week, 4 or 5 days ago, the videos of Joe Biden wandering around with G7 leaders or being led on the stage by Barack Obama were quote unquote cheap fakes. This is I don't even like the word gaslighting. It's but it is convincing you of a reality that doesn't exist. It's a millennial Gen Z version of just a good old-fashioned lie. And you were lying as recently as last week. Here's Morning Joe in the months leading up to the debate.
I've said it for years now. He's cogent. Mm-hmm. But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. Intellectually, analytically, because he's been around for 50 years. Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever. Not a close second. And I've known him for years. The Brzezinskis have known him for 50 years. If it weren't the truth, I wouldn't say it.
The best version, the best Biden ever. What you're watching there, and by the way, he doesn't invoke, I know people who say. I could play for you a montage of clips of dozens of individuals testifying to the mental acuity of Joe Biden. The one little out that a lot of them have is they always say, according to people who are in the room, I've talked to people in the room. That man says, I know and talk to Joe Biden. What you're listening to there is some of the most evil you can possibly hear. Evil rhetoric that you can possibly hear. That is lying to your face at the compromise of the security of the United States of America. So little respect for Americans that, as George Orwell said, he's asking you to set aside your eyes and your ears. And when you fall back on that common sense telling you it's a cheap fake, telling you you've been duped, or telling you you're a conspiracy theorist, and then on Thursday night in the CNN presidential debate, out walked Joe Biden. Now, reality couldn't be spun. Reports are that Joe Biden will not drop out as a Democratic nominee for president. And why? Because as the cover of Vogue magazine shows us, the real power behind the throne is, in fact, Jill Biden. No way will she let this go. This Secret Service detail, this clearing of traffic, these white fashion magazine covers, this life, this presidency. Still, there are those, like Barack Obama. Reports are suggesting, think it's time to move on. So are you ready for the fight? Barack Obama versus Jill Biden. Will they be able to move on from Joe Biden? That's next on The Will Kane Show.
The world of business moves fast. Stay on top of it with the Fox Business Rundown. Every Monday and Friday, Fox Business reporters, anchors, and hosts will bring you beneath the stock market speculation and boardroom drama to tell you about the biggest business stories of today. Whether you're on Main Street or Wall Street, Fox Business is invested in you. Listen to the Fox Business Rundown every Monday and Friday at foxbusinesspodcasts.com, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you download your favorite podcasts. Did you hear the news? Now you can. With instant updates from Fox News for Amazon Alexa. Breaking stories and top headlines, the economy, and so much more. Brought to you by Fox News, America's #1 cable news network. Plus, setup couldn't be easier because everything's ready to go in the app. Just say,
Alexa, play news from Fox.
In Fox News.
It's the latest when you need it, on demand from Fox News and Amazon Alexa. Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
That heat's going to be out there for one more day.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com.
This debate showed the brainwashed CNN and the liberal media viewers that they have been hiding from them for the last 3 years, says Debbie Lynn on Facebook. Yep. Sanity. Reality broke through the clouds of insanity, of propaganda. It is the Will Kane Show, streaming live on Facebook, the Fox News Facebook page, on YouTube, the Fox News YouTube channel, also on foxnews.com, on terrestrial radio from coast to coast, and always on demand by subscribing on Apple or on Spotify. Go subscribe to the Will Kane Show podcast, and you can listen to us whenever you like. Or now that you're here watching us perhaps on YouTube, hit subscribe to the Will Kane Show channel on YouTube. You'll see a little link underneath our video. And that way, look, not only can you jump into the comment section and get a reminder by subscribing and setting reminders that every 12 o'clock Eastern Time, 9 Pacific, you can watch the Will Kane Show, but that you can go back and watch past episodes. And by the way, what a 6-month launch that we've had. I mean, numbers on Facebook and YouTube that I don't know that there's been a lot of successful digital shows, but launches like this in this short a time and with these kinds of guests. Recently, Dave Ramsey, Kevin Costner, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Dave Portnoy, Stephen A. Smith, and on and on. You should subscribe. I hope you will. And leave a comment, leave a 5-star review to the Will Kane Show. It was fascinating in real time to not only see the groupthink mind meld of it's time to move on from Joe Biden, but the cope, the talking point, the let's pivot, let's make it even of, well, Trump didn't have a good night as well. And it took form after the CNN presidential debate of saying Trump lied. Trump lied. Trump lied 31 times. Trump lied. In fact, you can see the talking point take hold. And like, parrots in a forest, all of a sudden, all the chirping becomes one. It sounds like one big, or crickets. Or right now, I'll tell you what, in Texas, where I live, cicadas are out, right? And, one cicada starts making their sound, and then another. And before you know it, they're all doing it together at the same time. And it's one just constant, from the trees. Well, that's what's happening right now with the talking point. And by the way, if you're on the left, and some of you are, I know, watching right now, like Oreo X Gaming, you should really ask yourself about this kind of verbal tic, this Tourette syndrome of like talking points that take hold, right? And when you start saying the same thing that 100 other people are saying at the same time, you know, pandemic of the unvaccinated, lies, 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 the 31 lies, you should kind of ask yourself, do you think you're doing any independent thinking? Are you a cicada in the tree, chanting with the other thousands? Oreo X Gaming on YouTube says, hey, how about you explain the 30-plus lies Trump said in the debate? I can hear you in the trees, cicada. LOL, bro was saying we abort babies after birth. LOL. Oreo, hope you're still with us, because I want to see if I can just for a moment get you to stop chanting in the trees. Just see if you can tune out your other cicadas. Just for one moment, Oreo. Just hang with me for a second, okay? Just give me 2 minutes, and you can go on to watching Destiny or David Pakman on YouTube. By the way, Destiny tweeted the other day, yesterday, anyone who is supporting Trump at this point has less in common with core American values than any immigrant they warned you about over the past 10 years. When 1776 happened, it was to get away from exactly what Trump represents. I actually loved having Destiny here on the Will Kane Show, liberal YouTube commentator, successful. But this is insanity. This is part of that propaganda. This is democracy is at stake. This is standing on the edge of authoritarianism. And if you can do that, if you can get people to believe in that Handmaid's Tale, you can get them to set aside everything. Yeah, of course, separation of powers and the validity of the Supreme Court of the United States, but also their common sense, what they see, what they hear. Scott Adams, who's great, you know, the cartoonist behind Dilbert, said in response, can someone explain what scares them about Trump without sounding insane? I haven't heard anyone try it without devolving into word thinking. Example, he'll steal your democracy. He wants to be a dictator. Chaos. He thinks he's above the law. Looks to me like Democrats gaslit themselves into believing in ghosts. That's exactly what we illustrated earlier here on the Will Kane Show when we played that. Insanity from Chris Matthews. So this is the insanity that was peddled after the debate. Well, Trump lied, Trump lied, Trump lied. Yeah, I mean, it was almost immediately issued on CNN, MSNBC. It's what they were going with. I noticed it. And they never backed it up. They just kept saying it. I watched for an hour on competing news channels. They kept saying it, but they didn't give me an example of the lies. They didn't. Okay, for an hour. Hold on. And then it took off, right? And then next thing you know, Joe Biden is saying it, and Jill Biden is saying it. And next thing you know, potato head Brian Stelter is tweeting it, right? And you're on and on. You're off and running. What lies? Okay, well then CNN's joke, I mean absolute joke of a fact checker, Daniel Dale, puts out 31 lies. Okay, so what are some of the lies that Trump supposedly uttered? I mean, they said 30 lies in 90 minutes. They were like, he's issuing a lie every, I don't remember how many seconds, right? So the types of lies that they quote are best economy ever. All the legal scholars agreed that Roe v. Wade was bad constitutional law. These are quotes from statements from Trump. Top world standing, you know, everybody in the world respected the United States. Now, here's the thing. Some of these are subjective statements like that. They're irrebuttable. Others are exaggeration and hyperbole. I'm not here to tell you Donald Trump is like, you know, perfectly nailed language right there to communicate the absolute truth. No. He's from Queens. He's a real estate developer. It's the best. Everything's the best. It's fantastic. It's exaggeration. It's hyperbole. But not all of it. Some of it is dead on. So let's go back to Oreo X Gaming. So Oreo X Gaming, because this is another one they say, right? They say that claiming that LOL bro was saying we abort babies after birth. Well, here's the thing. I hope you hung in, Oreo, because Trump says things. And you have to hang in and listen, okay? And while some of it's exaggeration, some of it's spot-on truth. He told you how to find the truth that night. Former governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, talking about the proposed abortion laws in Virginia. Here he is on the radio, Ralph Northam.
Boy, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mothers.
There you go. I know you're still listening, Oreo. I've seen you in the comments section again. Trump said that some governors, he didn't say everybody, and he said Roe v. Wade's been returned to the states and states will decide. He said some, by the way, will make good decisions. Some will make extreme decisions. We happen to think that those that are extreme are those, like Ralph Northam talking about abortion made comfortable after the baby has been delivered. Okay? It wasn't a lie. Was it a representative truth of every position of every Democrat? No. I don't know what you believe, Oreo, or anybody else. Or for that matter, Gavin Newsom. I don't know what he believes because most Democrats don't say what they believe. Like, what do you believe should be the line? When should abortion be made illegal? Ever? Under what circumstances? At what point? But Trump is saying there and giving an example of an extremity that wasn't a lie, and there's the truth played for you. Methal01 says, why does this feel like on YouTube a tinfoil podcast? Maybe because my producer's name is Tinfoil Patrick. Or maybe it's what the truth sounds like when you've been inundated with insanity and lies and propaganda, that you're on the edge of the Handmaid's Tale, the edge of the extinction of democracy. And in order to save it, you got to censor the public and do away with the Supreme Court. It's just people are living in mass psychosis, a delusional world that started, I think, even before COVID, with the idea that Donald Trump is something that he's not. I'll tell you what he's not. He's not perfect. I'll tell you what he's also not. Hitler. And that's some of the lies that were given to you by Joe Biden on Thursday night that nobody talks about at the CNN presidential debate. Joe Biden's lies. Well, I think Donald Trump's are best characterized by hyperbole and exaggeration. Joe Biden's are fundamental. They're lies. I hope some of you are still sticking around on this. You do know, right, that it's a lie. You do know it's a hoax, the very fine people hoax. Trump did not call Nazis and white nationalists very fine people. I'm not going to replay the video for you today. You can go to, I think it was on last week's episode we replayed it, but it's been 7 years. And Snopes, by the way, for whatever they're worth, 7 years late, debunked it, said it's not true. But Joe Biden ran it out again last week. Oh, he said there's very fine people on both sides, and he went on to talk about the people that are opposing, taking down the statues of Confederates, and he went on to say, hey, where's this going to go? Is it going to go to Thomas Jefferson? Is it going to go to George Washington? Very prescient in that moment, by the way, because it did go on to those. And he's saying there's legitimate points and fine people that are on both sides of this debate. And then he explicitly says, not once, but twice, I am not talking about the Nazis and the white nationalists. He says they should be condemned. But Joe Biden doesn't care, man. Doesn't care about the truth. The truth doesn't matter. He ran that back out. And by the way, let me just give you another example. This is the vice president of the United States after the debate. She says, Donald Trump, put it on X, will ban abortion nationwide. President Joe Biden will do everything in our power to stop him and restore women's reproductive freedom. I mean, it's community, whatever, noted on X. And then Elon Musk even tweeted, when will politicians, or at least the intern who runs their account, learn that lying on this platform doesn't work anymore? Donald Trump has said on numerous platforms, he will not pursue a nationwide abortion ban. He has said it everywhere. But that's just a blatant lie from Kamala Harris. Joe Biden ran out that he said Hitler had some good ideas. And they pointed to General Kelly, who also said that Trump said at Normandy, I believe, that soldiers who died were suckers and losers. And then Joe Biden lied and acted like his son. He said, my son's not a sucker and a loser, like his son died in battle. His son didn't die in Iraq. Hitler did good things lie. Suckers and losers lie. Very fine people lie. My son died in Iraq lie. I capped insulin at $15 lie. I capped Medicaid drug expenses at $200 lie. These are substantive, real lies, not just exaggeration and hyperbole. Trump said he would be a dictator. Lie. Said it in Jesse. By the way, take Trump seriously. Don't take him literally. No soldiers died on my watch, said Joe Biden. Tell that to the families of the 13 that died at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan. How do you even parse that into a truth? What lines do you split? How do you possibly say no soldiers died on my watch with that pullout from Afghanistan? Border Patrol endorsed me, said Joe Biden, to immediate effect of a tweet from the Border Patrol Union. No, we didn't endorse you. We endorsed Donald Trump. I don't think any politician is a bastion of truth. But I also think you've been taken by a mass psychosis and are repeating a cicaded talking point to say lie, 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 while not looking at your own candidates' real substantive, rebuttable lies. And that's the latest talking point. A stumbling, A stumbling man who can't get his words across but has the best intentions at heart. That's what Van Jones said. Who loves this country, who has integrity, versus a con man. Joe Biden had to drop out of a presidential run. Maybe some are too young to know this. He had to drop out of a presidential run because he was exposed for plagiarism, stealing others' life stories, stealing others' speeches. He's a serial biographical liar. He says he drove an 18-wheeler. He says he graduated top of his class. On and on and on. All rebuttable. And this is the man that we're to believe has integrity? That's what you're going to sell us now? From a pandemic of the unvaccinated to Joe Biden has integrity. But they got to do something because it looks like Joe Biden will be the nominee. I don't see how they replace him. All that talk, I don't see how they replace him. Article in Axios says there's an oligarchy that runs. You want to know who runs the presidency? It's Jill Biden. As part of a kitchen table oligarchy. This is according to Axios. It is Jill Biden, his sister, I think it's Valerie Biden, it's Hunter Biden, his family. It's a friend who's 85 years old, all in consultation about what Joe should do. I showed you the cover of Vogue magazine. That's today's July issue of Vogue magazine. Jill Biden. You think this lady's ready to give up power? Jill Biden immediately ran out. You did so good, Joe. You answered all the questions. She is proving to be much more formidable than anyone ever knew. She is, perhaps, the power behind the throne. Remove the mask from Joe Biden and you find Jill Biden. There are reports, despite his public pledge, that Barack Obama, though, not so happy and wants to begin the process, perhaps the discussions of replacing Joe Biden. The problem is Joe Biden, maybe in an act of incredible genius, picked as his vice president Kamala Harris. Where do you go? All the names that you and I could talk about, all the names that will be talked about. Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan, poll way worse against Donald Trump than Joe Biden. I mean, I think Joe Biden is down 3 before the debate, CNN presidential debate, 3 points. Kamala Harris down 10 points to Donald Trump. Polling, which goes back to February, so it needs to be updated. But that's the last poll that we could find, according to Real Clear Polling. Gavin Newsom, 17 points. I'll talk about how good a politician, i.e. liar, Gavin Newsom is, not at running a state. He's down 17 to Donald Trump. Whitmer, something like 10. It's been done before. The reports are Barack Obama would be interested in an open convention. Happened in 1952. Harry S. Truman said he wouldn't run for presidency. Nobody had a definitive win in the primaries, went to an open convention in 1952, the Democratic Convention. It was won by Adlai Stevenson. He lost the race for presidency to Dwight D. Eisenhower. But here's the thing, okay? A, it would need Joe Biden's approval. He'd have to go, well, I release my delegates. Let me amend that. It would have to get Jill Biden's approval. Jill Biden would have to say, I release my delegates. But more importantly than getting Joe Biden's participation, wouldn't we have to once again address where we began our conversation today? You have sold to us that you are the missionaries, the warriors, the fighters, saving democracy. That is what you're willing to sacrifice the Supreme Court of the United States, the checks and balances, the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, the Fifth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, the presidential immunity, the executive branch. You're willing persecuting and jailing your political opponents. You're willing to do all of that because Donald Trump, in your description, represents a threat to democracy. It's well-founded. We are a constitutional republic. But let's just explore democracy for one moment. Isn't democracy supposed to be the will of the people, the majority of the people? Didn't Joe Biden win the majority of the people in a Democratic primary? Didn't he win the vote of the people? Didn't he win your democracy? At least for the Democratic nominee. Didn't Joe Biden, isn't he the representation of your democracy? And now that you think he can't win, now that he's obviously senile and we should have serious conversations about who's running the United States of America, and you can't believe that the president of the United States can't keep his mouth closed, has his finger on the nuclear buttons, you think, maybe we should switch him out. Wait a minute. You're saving democracy. And in order to save democracy, you're going to set aside democracy? So an oligarchy of people be it Barack Obama or Jill Biden or the Democratic Party, can just set aside the popularly voted in nominee for president and pick someone else because you're not going to win? It's beginning to sound like, to me, saving democracy means anything for a victory for Democrats.